What is going on, Sales Dev Squad? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sales Dev Squad podcast. It's your host, Mateo Elvira, here from the Sales Dev Squad podcast, and we'll be speaking with Brandon Eyring, who's actually the Sales Development Manager over at ZeroNorth. He actually just moved to the Boston area not too long ago and has been in the sales development game for quite some time. He had some previous experience working for MemoryBlue, which essentially is an outsourced sales development team. So quite a bit of experience selling a lot of different things, but really just specializing in the sales development function. And now he's leading a team of SDRs over at ZeroNorth. But super excited to have him on the podcast today. Brandon, thanks so much for joining us, man. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Happy Friday when we're recording it. I hope it's a great day for all your listeners, and pleasure to be with you, man.
Absolutely, man. Same here. I guess for our viewers here that maybe aren't too familiar with you and I guess your background, do you mind just giving us a quick gist on who the real Brandon is?
Well, who the real Brandon is might take a bit. Yeah, you mentioned MemoryBlue. That's really where I got my professional start. It really cut my teeth calling, cold calling and cold emailing and just learning the whole sales dev game in that environment. But, I would even venture to go back a little bit further. I think really what kind of defines me are things like first generation college students, offensive linemen, playing football my whole life. And I take the most pride in those types of characteristics or descriptions. Somebody that's willing to continuously grow and push new boundaries, and somebody that's always putting the team first. Doesn't necessarily need to take the glory, and just cares about the team winning. So that's been carrying throughout my career ever since getting my start at MemoryBlue. Yeah, it's been a fun ride so far. Absolutely love the sales development game, and it's pretty fun how I started 6 years ago, going on 6 years now, and you learn so much, you pick up so many tricks, you talk to folks like yourself and other folks you've had on your show, and there's just always stuff to be learned. So it's been a pretty wild journey so far.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for that overview here. And obviously, we chatted briefly, about a week ago to the dot.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to bring up something that you mentioned that was really interesting. That you have found the best way to really lead a team and manage a team and inspire a team and to basically achieve what you need to do for your job. You mentioned this concept of leading with your heart, and that really the best way to manage a group of SDRs or sales reps or just anyone in general is to really just care, for a lack of a better words. I'd love to just kind of dive a bit deeper or unpack that a bit further. I guess, what do you kind of mean when you say lead with your heart?
Yeah, you hear a lot of different buzzwords. You hear a lot of phrases. People write books, hold seminars. And I'm not intending to try to jump into that category. I'm trying to keep it really simple. I'm trying to impress upon people that you literally have to care about your work and care about the people you do your work with. It's not a gimmick. It's not a tactic. You gotta show up. You have to listen. You have to understand, empathize, and you have to help. And then it's as simple and as nuanced as that. So, an example would be if you're having a one-on-one with a rep. If they're bringing challenges to the table, you have to actually care about those challenges and understand how they're actually impacting their day-to-day and what they're feeling, what their understanding of the challenge is, and come from a place of empathy. Not only does it help you build effective culture and people begin to trust you more and listen to you more and take your advice and share openly the challenges that they have, you actually get better work done. You know, when you're able to freely express yourself because you feel your colleagues really care about you, there's no fear of not speaking up when there's challenges, which allows for management or leadership or anyone that's working with you to pinpoint how they can actually help. So I think really, again, the point is, this isn't, when I say you have to lead with your heart and you have to actually care about your work and the people you work with, I can understand that sounds like I'm selling a book, but it's just, you gotta care. And if you have to really overthink that, then you need to do some self-reflection about, are you in business? Are you working 8 hours plus a day for the right reasons? Are you in it just for money? You know, or do you feel that, you know, you can make a bigger impact than just business by, you know, helping people and having them feel heard and understood? That's been my approach, and it's been, you know, the numbers don't lie. It's been working for us.
100%. I know, like last week when we were kind of talking a little bit more, Brandon, you mentioned to me that like you actually don't take a one-size-fits-all sales training coaching approach to your reps, and you really, really try to tailor that experience, tailor that coaching as best as possible to each of your reps as their own individual person as they are. I know that there's a lot of sales organizations out there that sort of take that one-size-fits-all approach. I was hoping you could kind of unpack further like what that process looks like for you, and maybe like why a more tailored coaching approach with your SDRs tends to be more fruitful than other approaches.
Yeah, I think the highest level, you have to understand that every person is different. We're not robots. We're not doing a mechanical piece of work. You know, sales development, it requires the human element. I mean, especially in this age of digital transformation, the human is the differentiation more than ever. So you have to understand how to help the human develop in order to have the type of business performance impact that you want. So that's part of the mentality of trying to be one-to-one. Now, obviously, we're at ZeroNorth, we're a startup. We don't have the luxury or challenge, or however you want to look at it, of hundreds of different reps to have to coach. So I'm not taking that perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, we have the luxury or challenge of having a handful of people to mentor and coach at any given time. So take that into account. If you're listening and you are in that bucket of hundreds, then you might have some different perspective. But at the same time, even if you have hundreds of people, you have hundreds of different people. You have hundreds of different people that have different skill sets currently, different desires and motivations for where they want to take their career. So then what you have to do, in my opinion and in my experience, is if you can start any coaching or training conversation by understanding where does the person want to go? Like, if you're in the same role, if you're in an SDR role, where do you want to go from your career, and going even further than just title, but who do you want to be? It's not just about being an account executive, or I want to be a VP, or you have to understand what do you have to be as a person in order to hold that type of title and that type of responsibility. So you start from a point A where you are, say you're in an SDR role, and you understand point B per person where they want to be. So you have some reps that want to be an account executive, some reps that want to go into management, some reps that want to go into marketing, enablement, operations, you name it. See, if you don't have that conversation with your reps, you're starting the relationship from a coaching perspective completely wrong, in my opinion. Because what's going to self-motivate the rep is when they realize that when they overachieve in their current role, and they clearly understand the skills that they need to get to their next role, every single day they're showing up like it's an interview for that next job. And they're going to self-motivate to overachieve. They're going to figure it out. They're going to be open and honest and communicative about the challenges that they're facing because they clearly understand where they're going. And so that when you take that type of approach and you're managing and you're leading from that type of perspective, you start to realize patterns across the team where maybe we need to be stronger in certain areas. As a whole, maybe we need to ask better questions at certain parts of a conversation. We need to better do targeting. And so you can have your team patterns kind of filter out from having those one-to-one conversations. So it's not just individuals, and we don't have a team collaboration effect. But again, just to reiterate, if you don't have that clear line for the rep to see where they are today, where their skills are, where they want to be, and help them understand overachieving in your current role and skill development to that next role, of how that all kind of comes together, then it's going to be really hard to put together a training program. You're going to do a lot of cookie cutter training. You're going to have people sit through 2 weeks of slideware that you forget, like that, and then you don't even come back to do the training. You're still offending yourself because it's lazy. It's just like checking the box for training and enablement. That's what I've seen in organizations. And you gotta have that one-to-one type of relationship. It goes back to the first thing we were talking about. You gotta care about the person. You can't just try to put together programs because it meets some requirement for your boss. You gotta really, really care about the people's development.
100%. I guess, like, for example, like, let's say an SDR on your team doesn't really know what the next move is, but like they have potential. They are obviously performing at the SDR level. Like, for maybe an SDR out there that like isn't really too sure of what that next move is just because of their experience, or just they're not really sure. I mean, like, how do you sort of spark a conversation to where you can still keep them motivated on the front end, but like you're sort of helping them figure out what is the next move for them? I don't know if you've experienced that at all, but just
the question that you really need to have them reflect. Well, before I say the question, the mindset that you as the leader having the conversation need to understand is that you cannot solve everyone's problems. So you can't go into a conversation thinking I know what I'm going to say or know what I'm going to do that's going to help them perform. It's going to get them. This goes back to caring and listening. I go into a one-on-one with my reps. Yeah, I certainly have an understanding, an idea of where I think their development can lead based off of my relationship with them and how I'm helping them and the ways we've developed. But I'm also very open about things I still don't understand about what they're going through, what they want, what they want develops and changes based on their circumstances, on their skills, on their life stage. So just, because, one rep came into the organization saying, hey, I want to be an account executive. And then 6 months later, that's developed. They've learned more and they say, hey, I actually don't want to do that. I want to go do marketing, or I want to get into enablement, things like that. You got to be just open to things you don't know. So that's a precursor to any conversation like this. So when you're in the conversation, you're open and you're listening and you're trying to understand where someone is and where they want to go and how dynamic that type of scale is. The one question I love to ask and have people reflect on is, what gives you energy? I believe that the answer to that question, and when you can self-reflect of what gives you energy, is going to guide you to the role that allows you to do that thing the most. And when you're in that role that gives you the most energy, you're going to be the most fulfilled and passionate to develop into an A player in that role. And again, going back to that earlier point of that's dynamic, that is probably going to change. I mean, if I had asked you, Mateo, that 5 years ago, what gives you energy? I mean, if I asked that like every month, I would love to have seen a journal entry. It probably would have been different at various points. You know what I mean?
100%, man. I know there's obviously like a lot of sales organizations out there that, for lack of a better word, they really micromanage. I feel like the way, obviously, like you can speak to this, the higher up you move in sales management, the less of the actual control that you have for that number. And obviously, I feel like a lot of sales leaders just really tend to micromanage because that's how they feel that they have the most control over the situation. So whether that be just micromanaging on dials or emails or activity and such. And I thought it was really interesting because you pointed out this idea of like macro management instead of micromanagement. I guess, what did you kind of mean by the term macro management?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's the idea that you cannot manage people. You lead people. Macro management refers to the data, the numbers, the business outcomes that a team generates. You manage at that abstraction level. You lead and coach people. So the phrasing that I love to use is macro management, micro coaching. And that just encapsulates, again, everything we've been talking about, which is caring about your people, understanding where they're coming from, where they're trying to go, how you can help lead them, how you can empower them at that micro level where they're in accounts, they're talking to people, they're in their workflow. And you can take that perspective when you're having those conversations. But it's not just one or the other. Like, you have to have a level of high level understanding about how the system's operating, how they're doing in a zoomed out view. I think of it like and I certainly don't have battlefield experience, but I can imagine being like a general in a battlefield where you have the soldiers who are on the front lines and they're operating. When you can take a different perspective of the landscape of the battlefield, you can see there might be different tactical opportunities to achieve the mission. I mean, you might look back and see you might be able to attack a flank or something like that. That's that macro management idea. You're kind of separating out and you're seeing at a more tactical level where you can help the program, where you can help the battle at a larger whole. The catchphrase that should be taken away from the concept is macro management, micro coaching.
Mm-hmm. So like in terms of like micro coaching, you said like actually giving like your reps more like tangible, specific advice on how to like move things forward on their deals. Like, how do you understand the workflow of your reps? Do you actually do it yourself? Did you implement it? Like, how do you understand like exactly what your reps are doing in terms of like workflow, process, messaging? Like, how did that all come to be at your current organization?
Absolutely. It came to be out of allowing a level of creativity and listening on my behalf of understanding how people like to operate. And when you can get different people that are doing different things, you can start A/B testing and iterating on different processes. And when you're combining this mechanism of allowing people to feel like they're in control of their work, and then that's that micro coaching piece. Because then I'm also talking to them, helping understand, how are they crafting their personal emails? How many people are they putting into their funnel every day? Why are they selecting different people? And just seeing where they have questions and answering those questions, documenting them, seeing where the patterns are in these kind of one-on-one coaching conversations. But also from a data level, we can start seeing conversion rates that are different across different reps at different stages. And if I have one rep who is 5xing their conversation to meeting booked rate versus other reps, then we can get back into the weeds of, okay, what are those different reps doing? And then we can compare the data So instead of me dictating what I think works, I can allow a lot of different people do their thing, build their process the way they need to get to the outcomes that we need. And then we can quickly learn as an entire system, what are the best ways to approach our workflow? So as an example, one of the things that came out of taking this approach was we developed a LinkedIn-centric sales development program. When I first started at ZeroNorth in July 2019, it's the first sales development hire, and I was heavy on the phone. I did a little bit of LinkedIn, did a little bit of email, but it wasn't until I started making a few hires and we started experimenting more with connecting with people on LinkedIn and sending them direct messages and, doing more creative outreach on social, that we realized that, one, the reps preferred that mode of communication. So they were more excited about their job when they were able to interact with people in that way. And that's not just because, people don't want to make cold calls anymore. They don't want to, write, cold emails. It's, when you think about what's giving you energy, it's because you're actually connecting with people in the way that they want to be connected with. And that feels good. That's great. But then from that macro management level, okay, but is that working? Is that actually driving pipeline for us? And the answer is absolutely. We literally 10x conversion rate between, and this isn't a Grant Cardone plug, but literally 10x conversion rate from LinkedIn first degree message sent to conversation versus calling or emailing, because we were trying different approaches and then looking at the data and seeing what's worked, and we modify our workflow around the things that work. We just keep doing that and keep trying to iterate.
Mm-hmm. So it just comes back to, I guess, just your philosophy of always trying to innovate and just take that feedback, measure it against the data. That's awesome, man. I'm glad you guys were able to find a channel that works really well for you guys. I guess it's perfect for our next segue here, man. I know when we were talking last time, you had this concept of, I thought this was really interesting. What you have found to be really successful is sort of matching context with content. Kind of this idea of macro triggers, micro triggers. I know you're really big on those words, but what did you kind of mean by having the right context, having the right content, and how that's been successfully for your team?
Yeah, dude, this is one where I think a lot of salespeople get tripped up on. I say that because I receive poor sales outreach. I receive good sales outreach, just like everyone in the world does. And the thing that I think cuts across all the things you'll see about what's good and what's bad is leading with context. And what I mean by context is being able to clearly articulate why you are reaching out to a specific person. And it's more than just being clear. And so that when the person reads it, I clearly understand why they're reaching out to me. Think of it like a reCAPTCHA test. I'm not a robot. When you have to fill out a form, that little button you click at the end of the form. Sales outreach today has that type of mentality, but you have that reCAPTCHA test is the subject line and the first line of your email. And it's codified as context. And so things like context that we try to do is look on their LinkedIn profile. What have they said? And I'll get to the point of how to select that. Look at articles. What have they said? Videos, understanding, different, industry patterns that might be relevant for them. There's a whole host of them. We can talk about the macro trigger, micro trigger point in a sec. So you have the context. So I might pull up your LinkedIn, and I don't have your LinkedIn up right in front of me though, Mateo. So I'm going to make this up, but let's imagine you had on your LinkedIn, you said LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time. Let's just say that. And we all know that's controversial, but it is what it is. If I saw that, I might lead my email, Mateo, I completely agree. LeBron is the greatest of all time. It's going to be hard for you to believe that when I start leading into opening up an email or some type of LinkedIn outreach with that type of opening, that you're going to think that that's, I'm spamming you, or it's cold email, or, irrelevant. You're going to think this is a person that read something that I wrote. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get the meeting, you're going to get the interest, because the next phase of this is you have to take the context and turn it and translate it into your content. So that's the thing that I think people confuse. Like you'll probably get emails like, hey, I saw you went to X college. Let me tell you about my software. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. It's one thing to have the context, but the art of the sales development conversation is creatively turning that context into connecting to your company's content around your value propositions, and maybe around sharing a piece of actual marketing collateral content. That is what is engaging. So when I'm building this program, and one of the things that we've done is you have to take account of all of the personal messages that you write and start codifying the variables of how you personalize things. So you might personalize based off of someone's title, their company. We start getting into the triggers. There's different triggers involved with, like a macro trigger is a company-wide event. It could be, new hiring. It could be a newly announced project or initiative that you can help with. It could be new tooling that's been announced. And translating that trigger into how you can help. If you don't do that, you're setting yourself up for missed quota and embarrassment, because people are going to probably screenshot you and put you on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome, man. I really love your approach, man. You take a really humanistic approach to just sales management. Just always thinking of new and creative ways to like reach your prospects and really let your reps shine and leverage their personalities, and just take that feedback and sort of continue to grow from there, man, which I think is really special and unique, and I hope more organizations can sort of adopt that approach. But I know we're coming up to the later end of the podcast here, Brandon, but I guess for any of our audience members here have been inspired by, what you have to say, and, sort of been interested to kind of explore further like a career in sales, or, just kind of continue to grind it out, man. I guess, like, what advice do you have for them?
It's a great question. The best advice that I have is something that I relied on when I first started as an SDR. I remember when my first call I made at MemoryBlue, the phone was answered. I froze and hung up. So I know what it feels like to be in that crossroads of like, oh man, is this for me, or do I need to find something else to do, or am I going to actually make a stand and make this work? I think that there's those kind of moments present for all of us at all times. So the thing that I realized was that I only had one problem at that time. I had one problem. And the problem was I couldn't say anything on the phone. So the next time, like, I was able to dial the phone, put it up to my ear, let it ring. Someone answers. I just need to say something. That's my challenge. And then I'm going to have another challenge. And then the next challenge might be, okay, well, what do I say? And then it might be, how do I ask for time to permission to ask questions, or funnel different discovery questions, or ask for the meeting, or schedule a calendar invite, all this stuff that happens. It's a chain of events. See, my problem wasn't I didn't know how to send a calendar invite. My problem was I couldn't speak on the phone. So I just encourage people to try to take that like narrow view of what is it really? The one thing that if you got good at right now would alleviate the immediate challenge in front of you. And then the next level is kind of gamify with yourself. Treat it like, I'm a nerd, so I treat it like a video game. I think of it like bosses. Like you play those RPG games and you have these like giant bosses that get stronger and stronger and stronger. Well, if you treat your challenges like you're starting off with a level 1 boss, okay, I'm able to talk to someone on the phone, got it. Level 2 boss, I'm able to ask questions, great. And you're going all the way through. Level 100 might be, a 20-step cadence calling a CISO at a Fortune 10 company, and like doing all the mechanics it takes to get that. It's different for everyone. You don't need to master the level 100 boss if you're on level 4. You got to beat the level 4 boss. So just try to narrow in on what your challenges are. Be honest with yourself. And then the tactic to do it is Google. Just Google it. It's people, I promise you, have the same challenges that you have had. They've written books and articles about it. The internet is full of infinite information if you ask the right questions. So just be honest with yourself and where that single challenge is in front of you. Use Google. It's your best friend. And just try to keep the ball moving forward. And I think the last part too, that I think it's kind of baked into this whole idea of solving challenges one at a time, is you're always going to have challenges. You're never going to not have challenges. So don't think that because you solve one challenge, you're going to not have a challenge after that. I heard a quote when I was in college that you judge a man's success by the size of his challenges. And it never made sense. It was like, what does that mean?
It's a good
way. But when you take this approach that it just kind of snowballs into bigger and bigger challenges, you can realize it's just because someone got better at what they do and they just kept getting better, and they weren't afraid to keep getting better. They weren't afraid to try new things. So that's the advice I would give myself. That's the advice that has helped me the most, and I think would help anyone who's going through it right now.
Great analogy and great advice, Brandon. Really appreciate it here, man. And I guess for any of our audience here that was inspired by this conversation and kind of wants to pick your brain a little bit further, or just learn more about the opportunities within your organization over at ZeroNorth, where can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you got to hit me up. I'm always down to chat. Find me there. I'll just say you found me on Mateo's podcast. I'll know what's up.
Awesome. Brandon, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, man. I'm really excited to see what will turn out over at ZeroNorth, man. And again, really appreciate what you're doing in the sales development community, man. And hopefully we can rock part 2 and talk a little bit more about some gaming concepts then, man.
Yeah, I'm down for that anytime too. Thanks, man.
Of course, Brandon. Sales Dev Squad, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will catch you guys on the next one.